So imagine this. Your neighborhood HOA holds an election, but the board, well, they don't really like the results. So what do? They just toss them out, and they decide to do the whole thing over again. This is exactly what one homeowner claimed happened, and it led to this incredible legal showdown, where, believe it or not, breaking the rules might have actually been the only right answer.
And that's really the question at the heart of this whole thing, isn't it? We're about to dive into a case where an HOA board actually admitted to breaking one of its own fundamental bylaws. This forced a judge to decide if what they did was not just wrong, but maybe necessary.
All right, our story kicks off at the Rancho Reyes Second Community Association in Tucson, Arizona. It starts with what should have been a totally normal, straightforward board election. But as you can probably guess, what began as a routine vote very quickly spiraled into a full-blown legal battle.
And things escalated fast. I mean, look at this timeline. The election happens in January. Just 1 month later, in February, the board throws out the results. By March, they're already holding a redo election. And just 2 months after that, in May, the whole mess has landed in front of a judge.
Now, you'd think the lawsuit filed by this homeowner, John Ashley, would be all about those so-called irregularities in the first election, right? Well, that's not it at all. His argument was actually much more basic. He claimed the board didn't even have the legal authority to cancel an election in the first place.
The entire case really hangs on this one sentence, pulled directly from the HOA's own governing documents. It says the association must be managed by a minimum of 3 directors. This isn't a suggestion, it's a hard and fast rule.
And Mr. Ashley's argument was just that simple. It's basic math. He pointed out that when the decision was made, the board only had 2 members, Sherry Ortega and Maria Ruelas. So, from his point of view, a 2-person board was totally illegitimate and had absolutely no power to make a huge decision like invalidating an entire election.
So, just 2 people made this call. And here's the real kicker, the irony in all of this. The very election they decided to cancel, it would have put a full 5-person board in place, a board that would have included Mr. Ashley himself.
So of course, this all came to a head in a formal hearing in front of an administrative law judge. Both sides showed up ready to fight, and let me tell you, the testimony that came out revealed just how deep the problems in this community really were.
During the hearing, Mr. Ashley actually took his argument one giant step further. He didn't just claim the board was too small. No, he claimed that because of an expired term, the board was basically empty for the entire year of 2022, making anything they did totally invalid.
But the HOA fired right back. They came prepared with their own evidence, the meeting minutes from 2022. And those minutes clearly listed Sherry Ortega as president and Maria Ruelas as a director. Their point was, look, the board was small, we get it, but it absolutely existed, and it was actively running the community.
Okay, so if a board did exist, even a small one, why would they do something so extreme? Why redo an entire election? Well, their whole defense was that the decision, while technically against the rules, was a kind of necessary evil, something they were forced into because of what their management company found after that January vote.
And the testimony here was just wild. The management company described pulling security video of someone in a hoodie literally stuffing multiple envelopes into the ballot box. Then there was a winning candidate whose husband said she didn't even speak English and had no idea she was running. And on top of all that, a dozen ballots showed up in the wrong kind of envelopes. It was a mess.
So the whole case really boiled down to this one major conflict. On one side, you have Mr. Ashley, who's all about the letter of the law. Rules are rules, end of story. And on the other side, you have the HOA saying, hey, we were in an impossible situation. We had to do what was best for everyone, even if it meant breaking a rule.
So how does a judge even decide a case like this? Is it about following the rules to a T no matter what? Or is it about finding a fair solution, even if you have to bend those rules to get there? Well, the final ruling was definitely a surprise for a lot of people.
You'd think the judge's decision would focus on all that drama, the ballot stuffing, the mystery candidate, but it didn't. Instead, it all came down to this really fascinating legal idea that asks a pretty simple question. What happens when following a rule is literally impossible?
It's a principle called impossibility of performance, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. The doctrine says you can't be punished for failing to follow a rule if, for reasons outside your control, it was factually impossible for you to do it.
And here's exactly how the judge applied it. The testimony proved that the HOA had tried over and over again to get volunteers to join the board, but nobody wanted to do it. They couldn't just magically conjure up a third board member out of thin air. In the judge's eyes, following the rule was quite simply impossible.
And with that, the judge dismissed Mr. Ashley's petition. The thinking was, because it was impossible for the two-person board to follow the three-person rule, their decision to call their lawyer and redo a clearly compromised election was, under these very strange circumstances, justified.
This whole case leaves us with a really compelling question, one that goes way beyond this one neighborhood. When the rules on the books become impossible to follow in the real world, is breaking them an act of negligence, or could it be an act of leadership? It's that classic fight, right? The letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. And it forces us all to ask, what's really more important, sticking to procedure or doing whatever it takes to get to the right outcome?